Dr. Ravi Bhatt, a writer, an author, a historian with social responsibility. There's so many feathers to your hat and you execute them so well. Tell us about your journey, how was your childhood? How were your days? What made you, come this far?
Well, that's something like traveling down the memory lane.
Yeah.
That to start with, I've never be a serious student.
Okay.
And if I'm honest, I would like to say that when it comes to education, I didn't rate it very high in life.
You didn't believe in formal education?
Absolutely correct. Somehow, I can see through that the formal education is something which can just take to a certain level to an individual. But if he has to do something different, so it may not help.
Learning has to happen beyond the
real life.
Real world.
Not only real life, apart from what is in the school syllabus, you have to read a lot out of the syllabus also. The syllabus simply gives you a slight edge.
A bird's eye view of the
That's all. So I was very clear right from the very day one, I'll never excel in formal education. And that was the reason that when I was in the university, I still remember my friends my class fellows who used to read a lot, study a lot rather I'll say. So I never used to click with them.
आप never वो rat race के part नहीं थे कितना
No, I can see through. I could see through that they are starting from here and where they are going to end up.
Right.
You can see that's a very small journey.
True.
You know, in those days, a person is a first class used to be rated very high. I mean, these days everyone is first class. But though I'm talking about 30, 40 years back, first class used to be something to be seen in the awe. So that was it. But I could see the 4 first class people, I mean, they will end up being a clerk. They'll end up being, somewhere in a very routine kind of a job. So I was not for that, but I used to read a lot. Absolutely, there used to be a competition between me and my sister. I still remember that, there used to be 6 to 7 books of general interest. I mean, that's the fiction, novels, my parents used to buy.
Right.
So 6 to 7 books, in any case, we were reading, number one. Apart from that, others we were buying also.
Right.
And then all kind of a magazine. I think the age to which I belong, in those days, reading was supposed to be very in thing.
And reading gave you joy. There was this competition.
Absolutely.
Kitne books padhe hain, it was.
Again, I'll say no joy. It used to give joy. You used to enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
It's like a kid is given a sweet. Even he'll go in the corner of a house, he'll go and start eating it, he'll enjoy it.
Right.
The same was with us also, not for showing off to someone our knowledge, but we used to love it.
And we used to discuss, I think, in schools, हम लोग बातें करते थे, मैंने ये book पढ़ ली, इस series की हमने इतनी novels complete.
Exactly, series. So I still remember, in those days, translated work, where you rightly said the series. Unknowingly, we have in our family, especially I'm talking about myself if I say that, we have read almost all the translated work of Rabindranath Tagore, Bankim Chand, and Sharad Chand. Not only that, all the
classic authors of their time.
I mean, almost, by the standard of 12th, I think, 11th, 12th, I had finished all. My major reading was, what I have read in my lifetime. I think the major 50% I have read by the age of 12th.
Wow. So it wouldn't be wrong to say that you are what you have read. And the historian in you is the result of the readings that you have done.
What it has helped me, I think had I not been reading other things also, then when my interest developed in the history, so I can see the history in the right perspective. Otherwise, the historian within inverted commas, they tend to read and analyze only the political history.
Right.
See, if you go anywhere in the world, you find the history which is being taught in the confine of a classroom, four walls of the classroom, that is 80%, that's the political history.
Right.
And that's very unfortunate part, that only political history cannot give you the feel of the society.
True.
$1 million question, why a person reads history?
Right.
Why history? Why history? Like each subject has its advantage, where you read chemistry, you read physics.
But you're right, mostly we read the political history, be it the world wars, be it the wars our country
Kings,
has faced, kings, queens, invasions.
All right.
So,
And we hardly read the cultural history.
right, the social history, the cultural history, the economic history.
Yes. You said it rightly, absolutely correct. There are different kind of histories. But if you include everything, so in one sentence you can sum up. We don't read the social and cultural history, socio-cultural history. Everything comes in that, right? Others, history is always lopsided.
Yeah, and most of the historians present a lopsided view, and you kind of break that barrier, and you try to present both sides of the coin.
Yes, exactly. And for that, I have suffered a lot also.
I read you had to go through a lot of critics, and people have opposed things.
They started,
but you have
they have staged protest against me, not only once, a number of times. In 2008, I still remember, they have called, a minister, central minister, and Salman Khurshid. He sat on a dharna against me.
Was it related to your books on the Begums?
It was. I was writing.
Lucknow Begums and the Nawabs.
In fact, that's again one thing very surprising. That's my book, The Life and Times of the Nawabs of Lucknow.
Yeah.
That was being brought out way back in 2006. And 2008, when I was writing a column, for the Hindustan Group. And in that, even today, at the end of my, column, my writer which appears in my column, it is invariably written, the writer is the author of book, The Life and Times of the Nawabs of Lucknow. So people often, they confuse it, whatever they are reading in my column, that is the part of book also.
Okay.
Well, if the fact is not. So even that time also, what has happened, they thought, the column which I was writing, they thought that what I have written, it is part of my book also. As a result, what happened, there were people, around 30-40 people, and this was well planned, at the end of the Muharram, the last day of Muharram, when the maximum of the people, they assemble at the Asfi Mosque of Bada Imam Bada.
Right.
That is, they were collected, and that is what a Rumi gate, they put up a stage, and the lawyers and what not, the people who have nothing to do with the history, they said, don't started with a loudspeaker started talking ill of me. That time I was teaching in Lucknow University.
Right.
So I got a news that they were, and that different newspapers, they started contacting me, different channels they started, Aaj Tak, Zee, the IBN, CNN, they wanted my reaction also. And I was so sure, had there been someone else, he would have been hot the limelight. I said, no, I don't believe in cheap publicity. So I wrote the method, they said, what is your stand? I think my stand, whatever is written, that's my stand, that is all. So I didn't give any interview. But at the last, there were two channels, especially CNN and IBN, they got hold of me. And then ETV was also there. And then they circulated the footage to others also, probably. I mean, that is what I suspect.
So what was really controversial in that? What you wrote about the Nawabs, or was there some perspective that...
See, problem is what happens... there is something very amusing about history.
Right.
Amusing history is like right now, if I say, suppose for example, I say that your great-grandfather, maybe you do not know the name.
Yeah,
I said your great-grandfather, I'm a stranger for you, you are a stranger for me.
Yeah.
And we meet somewhere. And then, Chacha, you're the same person. Your great-grandfather had helped my great-grandfather when he was in the crisis. He was such a great man. You have no objection. You will accept this story.
Right.
You will accept this part of history very easily.
Very easy, true.
And if I tell you the other way around, your great-grandfather has taken money from my great-grandfather and he didn't return. Then you will start asking me, give me the proof, tell me how you did that, because it's not suiting you.
Right.
The same is with the history also. When something suits to someone, no one asks for the proof. And one doesn't, then they stop then they start acting
And I think
very
that
funny.
is happening in our country right now, when, you know, history written by certain historians is kind of damaging the social fabric, or some people are using it in a political way to, you know, weave a new narrative altogether. We are questioning the works of Mahatma Gandhi to Jawaharlal Nehru to anyone and everyone, existence of Ram. So we talk about religion and mythology at one part, political leaders at one part. How is history related to mythology, or how is, how do historians perceive it?
Smriti, see what happens in the history, something very interesting about history. There's a very famous historian, his name was Hendrik William von Loon.
Right.
And let me tell you, I'm sold to him.
Mm-hmm.
His book is The Story of Mankind.
Okay.
That was one of the first initial books which I had read. Now that book is out of print,
Right.
One must read it. And at the end of this book, if you will pick it up, you will not finish it unless, you will not drop it unless you finish it. You not leave it. So I remember that, he writes somewhere very well. He writes ki no matter how hard a historian tries, but somehow his liking and dislikings reflect on his writings. That means everyone is biased.
Yeah, we have personal choices and preferences.
But I tell you, one is unknowingly you are biased, right? And one is knowingly you are biased.
True.
When you are knowingly biased, then I call it you're committing a crime.
They say whatever historians write, that is history. We were not there 100 years back. So,
I'll not buy that. I'll not buy that. There are so many things we were not there.
Right.
Even in religion we were not there, but we believe in it. That's a very lame excuse. No, that's my take is when you talk about it, the history, I'll call that historian unbiased historian. That historian, when I call myself, it shows that I'm pretending, but believe me, I'm not pretending. When I call myself historian with social responsibility, the reason is, if I narrate a particular incident of history,
right,
which for a section of society, which it's not deliberate, it doesn't suit them. Fine, I don't care. I write because I get my facts and figures right from the primary sources. But at the same time, when something is good, which suits to them, I don't write good or bad.
right,
But if something suits to them, I write too.
true,
Like I give an example. In my book, you will find I have written a chapter when Maulvi issued fatwa against jihad.
right,
Maulvi. In that I have narrated how the temple at Ayodhya, Hanuman temple at Ayodhya, was protected by Maulvis. Will you believe that? Maulvis, they have protected because there were two portions. There are, as you know, Shia Sunni, there are two sects.
Right.
And the Shia sects, Institute of Theology, was Madrasa Sultaniya, which was housed at this place, this Sadat Khan ka Maqbara mein tha.
true,
And Farangi Mahal, that is the Institute of Theology of Sunnis. Farangi, the word is Farangi. Farangi is the Arabic word. People call it Farangi because that was built by the two French hostages.
Right.
So for Indians, जो गोरी चमड़ी का होता है, सब अंग्रेज फरंगी होते हैं.
right,
So Abdul Razak was a man from Farangi Mahal, and this gentleman from Shia side is a Maulvi Amir Ali of Amethi. Both of them, they have given a clarion call of jihad, and they said, let us go and by force, take over the Hanuman Gadi.
true,
That one, Wahid Ali Shah was the ruler, he was a Muslim. Ali Naqi Khan was his minister, and most of the important posts were held by the Muslims only.
Muslims only, true. At least the history of Lucknow,
So what I'm trying to tell you, no one should have stopped them.
true,
But Wahid Ali Shah had persuaded them not to do that. Not to do that time. Not only that, but they were extremists You know, fundamentalists, they were there.
True.
He even got to that extent, Vaid Ali Shah, that there was a soft diplomacy also. Like these days, the Shankaracharya को बुला के समझा देते हैं, political Guruji.
Correct.
So that time, the Maulvi Amir Ali was called by Vaid Ali Shah's minister through his relatives, and he had stayed here in the Siptanabad Imambara, which is just bank opposite the Halwasia market. Jहाँ marksman hai, the inside that.
True.
Siptana is a joint name for Hassan and Hussein. Right? So, but still things didn't work out. So ultimately, the good sense prevailed when, you know, just imagine the political leadership that was Vaid Ali Shah, they couldn't resolve this problem. That was the time that the Maulvis of both sects, they stood up and they stand by, no, that is wrong.
It should not be done.
It should not be done. And you know what they did? Not only that, they had gone to different Islamic centers, you know, around Lucknow, the Kakori, Malihabad, Sandila. These were the center of the Islamic center, small.
True.
Because they had gone there and dissuaded people. Then they had gone to the followers of this man also, Amir Ali and Razak, and उनको समझाया, तो he was, काफी लोग निकल कर उन्होंने छोड़ दिया था. What I'm trying to tell you, and ultimately, to cut a long story short, he was beheaded, Amir Ali, and everything was over. Now, when I write this, the role of the Maulvis is painted, you know, everyone accepts it. When I write something which doesn't suit them, but I am writing both.
Both.
In my book, you'll find if I've
You are
written,
presenting both the perspectives.
if I've written this, so I've written this also.
Right.
Then off were homosexuals, few knobs.
Right.
I mean, I said, fine. I mean, I'm not there to criticize. I'm not there to sit on judgment.
True.
This is what I call the history with responsibility.
Right.
Where whatever comes, right, facts, keep presenting them. Your language should not be derogatory, that you start using some
Foul
foul
languages for anyone. So as you were describing the history of Lucknow and what happened so many years back, people rightly say that Lucknow ko agar janna hai, samajhna hai, so the best way is to go through your books, and also the other way is to be with you and explore the monuments, you know, सुबह की जो वो होती है अमीनाबाद आपके साथ चले जाएं, या पुराने जो मॉन्यूमेंट्स हैं, रेसिडेंसी वगैरह, वहाँ पे अगर आपके साथ एक वॉक लिया जाए, तो यू टेल अस लॉट मोर स्टोरीज एंड लॉट मोर फोकलोर्स ऑफ दोस टाइम.
Not folklores. Right now, since you talked about the residency,
right,
I'll tell you something very interesting was residency. One sentence, I'll not elaborate on that. I'll not dwell on that for a longer time. You know, in the entire British Empire, it used to be said, as you already know, everyone, the sun was never setting
on the British Empire.
Fine. That means almost all over the world they had their presence.
Right.
In that, there was only one building in the entire British Empire, only one building, on which in the evening, the Union Jack was never lowered.
Oh.
In the entire British Empire. And which building was that?
Residency.
That was Lucknow. That was Residency.
And was there a reason behind it?
Yes, reason was very, I think we should be proud of that. Okay. See, when way back in the first war of independence, and as you know, the Indian side was, facing reverses all over at the end of the lands. That's what you call it, British call it a Sepoy mutiny. We call it first war of independence. And as a historian, you can call it uprising of 1857. In that, this Residency was the only, this Begum Hazrat Mahal, Indian side, led by Begum Hazrat Mahal, basically. Then Ahmad Ullah Shah, second, he was known as the Maulvi of Hyderabad, also mysterious Maulvi of Hyderabad side. They had captured Lucknow. Mind it. And again, the better word will be there. they have, they were controlling Lucknow like a king or queen. They had their own thanas. They were, stocking coins. They're like that independent ruler for almost 6 months. Few days lesser than 6 months. And that was the time the strategy which they had chalked out. They have captured everything. But all the Britishers from Lucknow, they had shifted to Residency. Because that was the time, because they had already suspected by 30th of the May, the first shot was fired at Madiyao Cant. So, they could make out कि भाई अब वक्त खराब आ रहा है, तो उसके साथ चले गए थे. इन्होंने पूरा लखनऊ जीत लिया था, पर दैट एंटायर रेजिडेंसी एक हिल्स पे, वो एक ऊंची जगह बना हुआ है, टम्पी एरिया है, तो दैट इज वेयर दे कुडंट, क्योंकि वो अंदर से फायर करते थे, ये बाहर से फायर करते, तो दे हैव फॉर अबाउट 6 months उसको सीज, इट वाज सीज्ड, घेरेबंदी करके रख दिया. एंड दैट वाज द लॉन्गेस्ट सीज्ड, one of the longest siege in the history of war in the world. And that strategy is still taught in different military academies all over the world. The strategy which Indian side has chalked out. Number one. Number two, Britishers have fought the maximum resistance here only. You will think कि कहीं और इधर होगा. Maximum
लखनऊ में.
Number three. वो जो फ्लैग था, ये लोग, दैट वाज साइकोलॉजिकल वॉरफेयर आल्सो. वो रेजिडेंसी के ऊपर दे यूज्ड टू होस्ट द फ्लैग, ऊपर आ गया, और इधर से ये लोग गोली चलाते थे, फिर गिरा देते थे, फिर वो किसी ढंग से उसको जोड़ के कहते ऊपर लगा देते हैं. अच्छा, सिंस इट वाज देयर वाज अ सीज, तो देयर वाज नो सप्लाईज, दे वर डाइंग आउट ऑफ हंगर, डिजीजेस, दे वर डाइंग, द पीपल, दे वर good number died, not because of bullet, no, because of there was nothing to eat, no medicine
to drink.
Right. So, that flag at the end, where when they captured Residency, they had got the relief from outside. Forces had come from Kanpur side, and ultimately, as you know, that everyone knows, it was won over by the Britishers. So that time they decided, we have fought the toughest battle, so we'll never lower this.
How do you remember so much? Like, एक problem जो history के students को हमेशा होती है ना, remembering dates, remembering incidents after incidents. What is your secret of remembering so many things, so many facts and figures?
I'm not really. I'll share with you. That's one thing I want to mention. Britishers, after just capturing the Residency, that they have decided not to repair it. You know why? Again, they wanted to show that, the younger generation, look here, how fierce war was there. Still we won. So still, that's the reason if you go to Residency, you'll still find the signs of, the cannons.
It's as raw as it was.
They didn't do it. And now I'm coming back to your question. How do you remember everything?
So much,
Which is your favorite movie?
A lot of movies.
Name one or two.
One or two.
Any?
That's hard. Like, I'm a movie buff. I watch movies every now and then.
And if if you see a good movie, you don't try to remember the names of the characters. You don't try to remember the events of.
You just remember
it goes here automatically. It is effortlessly. It is being registered.
So you love history so much that it comes effortlessly to you.
It's just like a picture. It's like watching a movie.
Right.
So when you love a movie, you automatically remember everything over it.
True. So what are the challenges that you face as a historian, as a writer, documenting things that have happened, ages? How do you verify or cross-check those facts and figures and put it into your writing as your own?
See, one thumb rule is never trust one source.
Okay.
Never trust one source. At least check with at least 2 more sources. First thing. And when you read something from 3 different sources, you can always form an opinion.
Right.
The facts, you can have your facts correct. Number 1. Number 2, challenges, you call it challenges or call it a very, I enjoy it.
Right.
You know, history, the moment you use the word history, everyone thinks of the political history.
Right.
And my interest is history as a whole.
There's so much more to history, not just the political
That is just tip of the iceberg. Maybe this is not right phrase. It is one side of history.
Right.
It's like I want to talk about you. I said you dress up very well. And that's one.
Right.
But then how educated you are, how you carry yourself, there's so many things.
So many aspects.
The same is your history. That's a political history which you can see.
Right.
It's like a dress.
True.
But there's so many things in it.
There's so many layers.
So layers after layers. Right? So the other thing is, my challenge is when people call me historian, they expect me to talk only political side of it. I talk about the complete history. And if you really want to ask me honestly what is my challenge, the real challenge is to really speak truth. Because people are so much conditioned to whatever, they have read.
Right.
They don't want to come out of it. And as I said earlier when I was talking to you, if a historian does a mistake, if a doctor commits a mistake, few casualty can be hundreds of thousands. The same stands good for an engineer also.
Right.
But if a historian commits a mistake, generations after generations they suffer, their thinking becomes biased. Right? Now, what happens, that's my challenge is, the people start at times believing in certain things which are not true, but that's so well established in the society that they become the part of the history. I'll give an example.
Yeah.
Padmavat. When this Padmavat
the movie
had come, lot many churches they had come to me. अरे आप बताइए क्या सही था क्या गलत था. पद्मावत कभी हुआ ही नहीं. वो पद्मावत की जो स्टोरी है, that's a story.
Okay.
That's not part of history. But who's going to believe it? The reason was, this Jaisi has written this,
Right.
and few Iranian historian like Farishta and others, they were a bit lazy.
Oh.
At times what happens, you are a very good historian. You write very well. 90% you write very well. At times there is some slackness creeps in. And you write something without cross-checking it. And when it comes from you, you are a established historian. Right. Other young historians, they start copying you. And 100 of historians write the same thing because they are drawing from your writing. You have said, suppose you are Farishta from Iran historian. They started writing it and people are believing in it. Like Anarkali. Anarkali, as you know, it's a fake character.
Right.
But who's going to believe you?
I mean, films present such a larger picture.
Not only
of
film,
life.
no, even before film.
Or even before film.
Film was being made because people believe in it.
Believed in
it is not because film people are believing in it. People are already believing in it.
Right.
The same is with Padmavat also.
The story was already there.
This is not only these two incidents I am quoting you because they are very popular.
Right.
There are 101 things like that.
Like that.
So when I write, like people often ask me, wherever I go, Wahid Ali Shah की कितनी बीबियां थी? फिर अब जब बोलेंगे Wahid Ali Shah, that he ran away. He couldn't run away from his palace when Britishers invaded because there was no servant available to provide him his shoes. ये बहुत कॉमन है. ये लखनऊ में वाहिद अली शाह कुछ जूते नहीं मिले थे, इसलिए वो भाग नहीं पाए जब ब्रिटिशर्स आ गए थे. It's absolutely useless. Britishers have never invaded Awadh. You know that? Awadh को invade ही नहीं किया उन्होंने.
Yeah, true.
वो तो उनकी ऑलरेडी यहाँ पर फौज हुआ करती थी. सब लोग था, उन्होंने ट्रीटी पे साइन नहीं किया. उन्होंने कहा ठीक है तब भी हमारा हो गया, खत्म हो गई बात. लड़ाई तो हुई नहीं कोई. भागना पर तो इतनी ज्यादा स्टोरीज हैं और इतनी स्ट्रॉन्ग स्टोरीज हो जाती हैं कि वो आदमी के दिमाग में हो जाती हैं. अब क्या हुआ पद्मावत के साथ? क्या हुआ पद्मावत के साथ है, या आप पृथ्वीराज रासो जो है उसके साथ पृथ्वीराज चौहान के लिए हुआ कि उन्होंने धनुष मार, इफ यू रिमेम्बर दैट, कि वो दिस मोहम्मद गोरी है इनको कैप्चर करके लेके चला गया था और अफगानिस्तान, और वहां पर जाके दरबार में बैठा था, इनको अंधा कर दिया था और उन्होंने बाण से शब्दवेदी बाण उसको मार दिया था. डेट्स एकदम डिफरेंट है. तो ये चैलेंजेस जो हैं, जब आप किसी से बात करिए तो बहुत दिक्कत होती है. तो द बेस्ट थिंग इज टू not to get into an argument. You write what you think.
You research and you write and you verify through authentic sources. So when you talk about history as a whole, I'm sure literature also becomes a part of it. And since you're a writer, so automatically literature gets imbibed, and there's cultural history, there's history of cuisines, there's so much more to history. Tell us something about that.
Okay, I would love to say one thing. That's people tend to think that political history influences the complete social history. I'll say it the other way around. It's the complete social history which shapes the political history.
Very true.
I'll not go into detail, it will take a lot of time. I can start from the Islam, Muhammad Sahab to the present day. So, but I'm getting back, like literature. Right. Literature is again a very important, I think literature is more important side of society than the politics. Ab now here in Lucknow, people talk about two things only, 3 things. Specifically, I'm talking of the history of Awadh. Nawab, Kebab, Shabab.
Right.
This is funny.
Rightly said, Nawab, Kebab, Shabab.
That's something. What is so great, yeah? You go to any part of the country, you'll always find there's some special kind of food there.
True.
So if you have the kebab, someone has the bati chokha,
right.
The other person has the imarti, third person has something else. So not great.
Yeah.
True. So this is a Nawab, kebab. Nawab, when you talk about, again, Nawab is not the prerogative. Nawab is not a particular prerogative of Lucknowites only, because as you know, the Nawab is an Arabic word. It is the plural of Naib. Naib means assistant. Like Naib Daroga, Naib Tahsildar. So now when Akbar the Great, I don't know whether he was great or not, but Akbar the Great, it is said, Akbar had divided his entire kingdom in 12 provinces. It was called Suba. It's a Persian word, Farsi. And each Suba he had appointed one of his assistants there. So those assistants were known as Nawab. Because the plural. But over a period of time, the word Nawab was used for one individual also. This is Sarkar kehte na. So I'm trying to tell you, you have the Nawab in other parts also. You have some special food also.
Right.
So Nawab, Shabab, Nawab, Kebab, khatam ho gaya. Shabab, beauty is everywhere. It's not appropriate.
True.
Now the question is this much more to in Lucknow. Lucknow mein, the most important thing is of Lucknow is Lucknow's culture. Massless culture. You can take pride in it. I'm talking internationally.
गंगा जमनी तहजीब that we
नहीं, वो ऐसे लखनऊ में गंगा भी नहीं, जमुना भी नहीं है.
But फिर भी हम वो कहते हैं.
It's the term used, and few people believe that is originated from here only. Right. That's this secular culture is massless. You'll not find this of culture anywhere in the world. In the world. And I give an example. Anytime you say culture is something intangible. And people say that you give me the proof. Like, whose poem is better? Whether your poem is better or whether mine. There can't be proof.
True.
You can't check it by, a measurement.
Right.
Neither you can wait. Right? But when it comes to culture, I can tell you, I can give you the proof why Lucknow's culture is better, secular culture is better. See, at the time of partition, way back in 1947, when the entire country was burning in communal clashes, Lucknow, that too, with a good maximum of the Muslims, Shias are in Lucknow.
True.
There was not a single communal clash in Lucknow.
Wow.
That's a proof. That's a proof. And that's the reason I always say, I've written my book in the very first page I've written. The secular culture, Lucknow might be a dot on the world map, but the secular culture which Nawabs of Lucknow have evolved, it has impact so much that that even after years, you come to Lucknow, you will find the traces of that. The language, and when it comes to language, see the Urdu literature, there used to be two centers of.
Even language has a history.
Yes, Urdu literature had two centers. Initially, the Delhi was the center, Urdu. But later on, after 1722, the Lucknow too had become an equally important center, and there was a great rivalry between these two. And that's both the schools, they used to think that we are better, and there was so much rivalry. The entire poets of the country, they were divided in two camps, and here the Lucknow School of Urdu Poetry was established by two poets. One was the Atish, the other was Sheikh Imam Bakhsh Nasikh. Nasikh, if I say word, it may be alien for you, but there's a couplet, if I recite, उल्टा बहुत सुना हुआ मैंने. उसका एक बहुत फेमस शेर है कि जिंदगी जिंदा दिली का नाम है, मुर्दे दिल क्या खा गया करते हैं.
सही बात है.
वो मिर्जा गालिब है. Very few people will know that. Mirza Ghalib's initial poetry was influenced by the poetry of Lucknow's Sheikh Imam Bakhsh Nasikh. नहीं मालूम?
नहीं मालूम.
शेख इमाम बख्श नासिक की पोएट्री से इन्फ्लुएंस थे वो.
अच्छा.
मिर्जा गालिब की इनिशियल. तो वो कलकत्ता जा रहे थे, वो यहाँ रास्ते में आए थे, तो यहाँ उनको घास नहीं डाली गई, क्योंकि यहाँ पर वजीर होता था आगा मीर. आगा मीर वजीर जो होता है, लोगों ने पहले तय करा कि आगा मीर से मिलाया जाएगा, आगा मीर मिला देंगे नवाब साहब से. तो आगा मीर को लगा मैं तो खुद ही बहुत बड़ा शायर हूँ, क्योंकि जितने ब्यूरोक्रेट्स होते हैं उनको लगता है मैं पेंटर भी हूँ, सिंगर भी हूँ, सब कुछ वही हूँ, हमें शायर पे टाइम. तो उसने जब मिलने की बात हुई तो उसने कहा कि मैं एक शर्त पे मिलूंगा. आगा मीर ने कहा, इन्होंने कहा, हमारे मिर्जा गालिब ने कहा कि मैं कोई चीज भी कस्टमरी को प्रेजेंट नहीं करूंगा, और अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट ही शुड गिव मी खल्लत, रोब ऑफ ऑनर. तो वो उसने कहा, आगा मीर ने कहा मुझसे बड़ा शायर कौन है. मिर्जा गालिब को घास नहीं डाली, तो मुलाकात कभी नहीं हुई. अब आप देखिए, मैं खत्म करता हूँ आपको एक बात के साथ कि दुनिया में एक बहुत दुनिया में आपने सोक्रेटिस का नाम सुना है. सोक्रेटिस का एक बहुत फेमस सेंटेंस है कि आई नो ओनली वन थिंग दैट आई डू नॉट नो एनीथिंग. ठीक है, यही बात आपके लखनऊ के पोएट ने कही है. लखनऊ का पोएट, फेमस पोएट मीर तकी मीर, वो कहते हैं हमने ये जाना कि कुछ नहीं जाना, हमने ये जाना कि कुछ नहीं जाना, और वो भी इस उम्र में आकर हुआ मालूम. देखिए क्या क्या शेर लिखा है,
क्या शेर लिखा है. सही बात है.
अब आप देखिए शेर, मीर तकी मीर का शेर देखिए, ये सोशल हार्मनी ऐसे नहीं आ गई. मीर तकी मीर का शेर सुनिए, लिखते हैं उसके ही खुदा, उसके ही फरोगे हुस्न से झमके है चराग खुदा के, उसके ही फरोगे हुस्न से झमके, कहते हैं चमके को. लखनऊ में झमके वर्ड यूज होता था, दिल्ली में चमके कहते थे. दैट वाज डिफरेंट. जैसे दिल्ली में वर्ड यूज होता था मलाई, दिल्ली की उर्दू में, लखनऊ में मलाई कोई नहीं कहता था, यहाँ कहते थे उसको बलाई. तो उसके ही फरोगे उससे झमके है चिराग, शमे हरम हो या दिया सोमनाथ का. मीर तकी मीर. और एग्जैक्टली बात कही है वाहिद अली शाह ने. नकुसे ब्राह्मण ने, नकुसे कहते हैं शंख की आवाज को, और ब्राह्मण ब्राह्मण, मतलब ब्राह्मण के शंख की आवाज में. नकुसे ब्राह्मण ने सदा दी अजान की, हमने मस्जिद से सजदा किया सोमनाथ का.
Wow, beautiful.
वाहिद अली शाह.
This is one perspective that you have shared, literature and history combined, jo lot of historians miss on it, and that's the beauty of Ravi Bhatt, I would say. So coming to the last section and to the last
But last, I'll just finish off two things. One, I'll say, often people confuse कि शेरवानी लखनऊ की है. जी. शेरवानी लखनऊ की नहीं है, शेरवानी हैदराबाद की है. हाँ. लखनऊ की फिल्म ड्रेस जो होती थी वो आजकल देखने नहीं मिलती, उसे हमने बचपन में देखा है. अच्छा. उसे कहते थे अचकन. हाँ, अचकन. इसी रंग से लखनऊ के लोग बिरयानी की बड़ी तारीफ करते हैं. लखनऊ में बिरयानी है ही नहीं, लखनऊ की बिरयानी है ही नहीं। लखनऊ में के नौबी कल्चर में बिरयानी को बहुत लद्दड़ चीज समझने में आता था,
अच्छा,
क्योंकि उसमें मसाले साले बहुत पड़ते हैं। यहाँ पर उस चीजों को मतलब नजाकत नफरत लोग हैं, तो क्या यार गाँव वाले खा रहे हैं।
हाँ।
यहाँ की फेमस चीज है पुलाव।
पुलाव। History is one subject that every student studies
Right.
forcefully, or you know, as a part of the curriculum, or as a joy of reading ki what has happened in the past, हमारे ancestors क्या थे. But not many people take this profession. The profession of an historian is not taken up by very many people. Probably they don't understand कि क्या challenges है, or what are the perks and benefits, or how you plan a career around it. So what is the message that you'd like to give to the youth or people who are thinking about taking it as a profession?
Well, I'll just like to say a few things. I'm not standing on a higher pedestal, but I'll
you
like
have a
to
doctorate,
say,
so you are already on to that position.
So I'd like to share with my people, my general listeners, or who are watching it. I'd like to say one thing, which I very strongly believe. Never take pride on anything over which you don't have a control.
Okay.
Never be ashamed of anything on which you don't have the control.
True.
I give an example. People take lot of pride, and that's I'll use a word, you will not like it, but I'll use a disease. There's a general psychological disease.
True.
That people take pride. You know, that's my great-grandfather was a feudal lord of a particular place. Right. My great-grandfather was a very rich man. My great-grandfather was a very charitable person. My great-grandmother was a very learned person.
Right.
And we come from a family. We come from a certain caste. We come from certain regions. They take pride in it.
True.
अरे मैं से खानदान ये है. You don't have the control over that.
Right.
Did you decide your birthplace?
No.
Birth time, your features, how good you look at or how bad you look at? Did you decide? No.
Nothing.
But why you take pride? If you are taking pride on the, you know, the positive side, so-called positive side of your ancestors, so if you come to know that your great-grandfather was a thief, will you hang your head in shame? You won't. So, what I want, you learn history, read history, but don't take credit or discredit. You should not be ashamed of it also.
True.
If your great-grandfather was a thief, you should not be ashamed of it. He was a traitor. Don't be ashamed of it.
Accept them as they are, whatever
No,
they did.
I said, you have no reason. Don't be great.
Right.
If your great-grandfather was a traitor, you have not done anything.
Right.
The same way, don't take pride in it. If you are a freedom fighter, you start taking credit. I am the son of, great-grandson of it.
True.
That is my message to everyone.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Ravi Bhatt, for sharing
I'm on
such delightful insights of history with us.
I'm on it, Smriti. Thank you.